The United States experienced a series of weather events that disrupted daily life for residents in 4 states. Colorado, Georgia, and Louisiana were hit by damaging hail, while Florida faced widespread seasonal flooding due to prolonged heavy rains. While not considered a major disaster, these events served as a reminder that extreme weather, in its various forms, continues to test the preparedness of social systems and urban infrastructure. In Colorado, the sky began to change early in the day. Cumulonimbus clouds towered over the Front Range, forming ominous gray towers. Around 3 p.m. local time, hail began to fall, initially small, then growing to 4.5 centimeters in diameter, the size of a golf ball. The sound of hail hitting rooftops and vehicles sounded like automatic rifle fire. More than 2,000 vehicles were reported damaged, with windows shattered and bodies dented. 300 homes suffered roof leaks, and 14 people suffered minor injuries from flying glass. Denver International Airport delayed 87 flights, while emergency services were overwhelmed with reports of damage.
Not too terribly big.
According to local meteorologists, the meeting of moist air from the south and a cold air mass from the Rocky Mountains created atmospheric instability that triggered the formation of supercell clouds with ice layers in the upper atmosphere. In Georgia, hail struck Atlanta during rush hour around 5:30 p.m. Temperatures, previously warm at around 29 degrees Celsius, plummeted to 18 degrees in less than an hour. 2 to 3 centimeter hailstones hit the highway, causing severe congestion and a series of accidents on Interstate 75. 5 schools postponed afternoon classes, and 2 hospitals received patients with minor injuries. Hartsfield-Jackson Airport experienced dozens of flight delays. Residents, initially believing it was a normal downpour, panicked when loud thuds began to be heard on the roofs of cars and homes. This phenomenon was caused by the interaction of moist air from the Gulf of Mexico and a cold air mass from the Appalachian Mountains, creating high atmospheric instability with relative humidity reaching 92%. Meanwhile, Louisiana experienced a rarer phenomenon. In Baton Rouge and Lafayette, hail fell amid tropical temperatures of 27 degrees Celsius. Residents engaged in outdoor activities scrambled for shelter as hail began to pound the ground. Local concerts and festivals were canceled. Several businesses sustained minor damage, and roads became slippery, causing 12 minor accidents. Cumulonimbus clouds reaching 14 kilometers in height formed in the upper atmosphere, and a layer of ice formed due to rapid cooling. This phenomenon is rare in subtropical regions like Louisiana, and many residents express surprise and awe. In Florida, heavy rains that began early morning caused flooding in several coastal and urban areas. Miami, Tampa, and Orlando received between 80 and 120 millimeters of rain in 24 hours. While not classified as flash flooding, the water pooling on major roads caused traffic disruptions and forced the suspension of some schools and government offices. About 1,500 residents were voluntarily evacuated from low-lying areas prone to flooding, and emergency services were deployed to assist with relief efforts. There were no reports of casualties, but minor damage was recorded to several homes and public facilities. Experts say this flooding is part of a typical late summer seasonal pattern, exacerbated by the city's suboptimal drainage system. This event highlights systemic weaknesses in dealing with extreme weather and seasonal disruptions. In Colorado, roofs that are not resistant to hail are a major problem. Georgia demonstrates the lack of an early warning system for sudden hailstorms. Louisiana is unprepared for rare phenomena like tropical hailstorms. Meanwhile, Florida faces challenges in managing drainage and mitigating recurring seasonal flooding. Experts are calling for reforms in urban planning, weather-resistant infrastructure, and public education to better prepare communities for an increasingly dynamic climate. The extreme weather events we're experiencing are more than just a series of atmospheric disturbances. They are a stark reflection of a changing world, climatically, socially, and structurally. The hailstorms that struck Colorado, Georgia, and Louisiana demonstrate that even phenomena once considered seasonal can now be sudden, intense, and destructive. Meanwhile, the regular flooding in Florida, while not catastrophic, nonetheless reveals the fragility of drainage systems and urban governance in the face of repeated heavy rainfall. In Colorado, hailstorms from the sky are testing the strength of infrastructure and the preparedness of residents for increasingly frequent extreme weather events. Georgia, typically more familiar with thunderstorms, is now facing sudden hailstorms that disrupt mobility and public safety. Louisiana, with its subtropical climate, is experiencing a rare phenomenon that demonstrates the blurring of regional climate boundaries. And Florida, despite experiencing only moderate flooding, demonstrates that seasonal disturbances can pose a serious threat if not addressed by resilient and adaptive systems. Beyond mere statistics on damage and evacuees, these events invite us to look deeper. How social systems respond, how citizens adapt, and how governments learn from each event. Extreme weather is no longer the exception, but rather part of a new landscape that must be understood, anticipated, and faced together. Resilience lies not only in concrete and steel, but also in communication, education, and solidarity. In a world filled with increasing climate uncertainty, every hailstorm, every puddle, is a message that we can no longer rely on old patterns, that we must build resilient systems, responsive societies, and bold policies. Weather is not an enemy, but a mirror, and what we see in it is a reflection of our preparedness as a civilization.